Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for Beyond BIM 2020. I'm Marty Rozmanith. I am the Director of Worldwide Sales Strategy for the Construction and Cities Group at Dassault Systemes. I want to talk to you about today what's new in 2020 for construction and cities at Dassault, and share some examples with you. First, just a little bit of a recap for those who haven't been involved with our company. We, at this conference last year, were talking about the forces in the industry that have been driving construction towards a new method of delivery known as design for manufacturing and assembly. And these are most pronounced on the large global projects where you've got different parties that are designing, that may be engineering in a different part of the world, construction happening in a different part of the world from where the design is happening and the engineering is happening, and the teams being fragmented and needing better ways to communicate than the sort of passing around large files and the version control issues that you get in situations like that, and also just the performance of trying to pass around large files. We are advocating a different approach using a data-driven platform that we have called the 3D Experience Platform. Just a recap on that, we have this platform that allows us to advocate the 5 key processes that we've really learned from the manufacturing side of our business over the last decades, really, to how to integrate teams that are currently siloed in the construction industry. And so whether it's the design team using our design tools, or supply team for sourcing, or the construction team trying to figure out execution, the goal of our platform is to make a data-driven environment where they can all collaborate together. And we then apply these different processes, and I'm showing them as linear arrows, but really they're loops that happen at different times between the different teams. It all starts with the digital mock-up, bringing data onto the platform, especially the 3D data for design, so that you can do design reviews and process simulation. Eventually, looping back through different design reviews and simulations, you end up with a design that you release and you want to construct, and so you're going to simulate execution, you're going to make decisions, you're going to come up with the best plan, and then you're going to track that plan, and ultimately you're going to have an asset, a facility, or it could be a bridge, it could be a stadium, it could be an office building, whatever it is. You're going to then have the model that you use to manage that over the life cycle. Because this is a living model of what was actually built, not just a approximate model of the design intent. And the key to this is having this data-driven platform, so you have the continuity of data from design all the way into operations. And I'm going to show you how that's applied on some of the projects that I show you in this presentation. And one of the things about this platform is that it allows different stakeholders to bring all kinds of different data, which will live for the life of the project and the life of the asset. And whether that's BIM data coming from our tools or competitor tools or standards like IFC onto the platform, it leads to data about fabrication, data about installation, about work breakdown structure for construction execution. All of these things relate to one another, and you can make those relationships explicit so that if you make a decision, the platform documents why the team made that decision. If you then come back because you learn new information and want to revisit that, then it's all at your fingertips. And that's the whole point behind the platform, is that it allows a team, irrespective of distance, to be able to collaborate in a way that's really seamless. So the reason that it works in the environment we have in construction is that we've taken the types of BIM data standards like IFC and built them in as an open standard as the native data model for building data on the Dassault 3D Experience platform. Not only is it the native data model, but you can take, say, vendor-specific information from other systems like Revit or Tekla, and our system will support objects with those extended properties on them. And these specific attribute sets and rules can be customized and enforced by anybody managing BIM projects in your staff, so that you have not only an extensible system, but one that you can apply to make sure that you've got good data management, in addition to good design management and best practices. So that's one of the unique things about our platform, is that you can use it to suit the way your office works in a really extensible way. And by bringing all of this different data onto it, we make this digital mock-up that doesn't just consist of our own data, like our excellent 3D modeler CATIA, but it can bring other data from other BIM systems like Revit or Tekla or Bentley, or even our other tools like SolidWorks, or other mechanical systems like Inventor, and federate it all into one model that we call the single source of truth. And this way, there are no arguments about version control and which file is right, and this leads the teams to have a better collaborative environment, so that you don't have to revisit things and you don't have rework because somebody had old data or the incorrect version of something. So this is an important aspect of our philosophy on how a team that's designing and constructing should operate, so that no matter where you're located, you can bring data onto the platform and collaborate with people around the world. And you'll see this in examples that we talk about here at this Beyond BIM conference, where people have used the platform to design in one part of the world, even though engineering and construction is being done in another part of the world. The key to this is that we deliver this platform on the cloud, and so to get started with us, it's really just a matter of turning it on. Now, what's new in 2020 is the understanding that changes in the urban built environment are being driven by the experience economy. And this is something that started many years ago, but it's only accelerating. And we see these changes in urban life changing the way that people are consuming places they live, the places they work. And so property developers, city administrators are responding to these upstream choices and demands from city inhabitants. And that is really creating new dynamics in the design community that people have to respond to. So whether it's an administrator that's wanting to understand how these things are going to impact their city, or whether it's a property developer that's chosen as the master developer for a project that has a dozen buildings in it because it's a whole sort of district redevelopment in an urban environment, we're finding that designers are having to look at things in the urban environment at a completely different level of scale, with a degree of integration that is beyond what they've had to do in the past. And our platform is an excellent tool for helping resolve these things, and I'm going to show you some examples. And the reason that the platform is a great environment for this is not only do we have the single source of truth about the design and eventually what turns into the asset, but the platform also have this underlying philosophy that the virtual world extends and improves the real world. And why is this? It's because if you have if we look at a product like an aircraft, in the past, our customers would take that aircraft and instead of building a physical prototype, they'd make a virtual prototype and test it, and that saved them lots and lots of money. Well, in an urban environment, you can plan an airport or a whole bunch of buildings and build them and find out how things turn out, or you can take a virtual copy of that environment and do that plan and see whether the things actually turn out the way you expect. And it's not just even can I walk around it in a VR headset. It's how does it change the wind patterns? What sort of heat gain do I get if I change the zoning envelope in one area of an urban environment to accommodate a different form of buildings or different uses? What happens to noise levels? What happens to pollution levels? So these sorts of simulations from the standpoint of a city administrator are really critical to know before approving particular development schemes in an urban environment. Likewise, for a property developer that's wanting to make a proposal and understanding how best to present that proposal to an urban authority that's going to approve it, they want to be able to simulate and understand the impacts so that they can make the best choices about what they bring as a design for approval. So I'm going to show you just one example of this. So this is just recently the kind of tools that we've brought to bear on designing in an urban environment. So this is, say, a project that's in context of its urban environment, and maybe you've been looking at simulations for wind or solar gain or some other factor, shadow, any number of things that can impact the urban environment. And so in this case, we've used the generative tools to, at a conceptual level, just be able to play with the design so that as we do simulations, we can look at different alternatives. And this is based off some generative tools we've developed on the back of our flagship knowledge automation language called KnowledgeWare. And it allows us to go from this sort of very high level conceptual urban scale concept to very nitty-gritty nuts and bolts all the way down to fabrication level of detail to resolve, say, the roof and how the roof form that we were showing on that concept design would actually be made, and what it might look like, and then how we might source different components. So in this case, we're showing now down to the very nitty-gritty level of detail the type of fastener that would fasten the glass panels together. And now we're looking at an arbitrary panel that's going to be used in this system that we can use to fasten any one of those roof forms. And now we have some KnowledgeWare that allows us to apply this sort of generic panel system to any surface. And you can see sort of how that's going to work when we apply it to this other type of surface. Just by taking those rules and applying them to this surface, we get sort of the finished, resolved pieces and parts. So now you can see how we might apply that to this roof form that we showed on that conceptual design. And you can see we've very quickly gone from urban scale conceptual design all the way down to the nuts and bolts of what are we going to have to source in order to actually make this roof form for this particular urban space. So that's what we're bringing to bear as a new set of design tools from Dassault Systemes in 2020. And this is the result of, in 2019, we actually took the construction groups at Dassault Systemes and the city group and combined them into one industry called the construction and cities industry. And so another thing that has happened is not only do we have these great design tools now that allow us to resolve all the way from urban scale down to fabricated parts, but we have the platform now working with city administrators where you've got administrators that are looking at how is my urban space performing? What kind of key performance indicators do I want to measure? As I make proposed changes, how do those indicators change? Are those changes good or bad? By working with these city administrators, we're really understanding the nuts and bolts of how people want to apply this type of technology in a city, what sort of things they want to capture about assets in the city, how developers want to work with something like this to propose projects in an urban environment to an administration that has to approve them, what sort of financial metrics and incentives might be there to drive development to leverage, say, public funds in a way that allows cities to achieve their development goals by leveraging limited public funds and getting private development to expand a program that a city might be looking to do. So this is it's a really great time to be using these data-driven tools in an urban environment, because not only do we have more ability to design in context at a level of freedom that we've not seen in the past, but we have the ability to connect the stakeholders together to provide rich solutions to problems that were really sort of intractable and very difficult to solve only in the recent past. So another example I'll show you is this work done by SNC-Lavalin on the metro project in Montreal, where this is an extension and sort of redesign of the metro system, including some new bridges and a lot of different work, where in this digital mock-up of the whole system, we're showing you not only railways designed using our tools like CATIA, but also the train stations that were designed in Revit and brought onto the platform, as I described, to make the single source of truth. The actual rail cars that were designed in CATIA and SolidWorks from the rail car vendor. The precast shapes that were done in CATIA. And then the construction simulation actually done in our DELMIA discrete process simulation suite to show how the precast pieces and the bridge cranes that would move along the construction project would sequence the installation of these pieces so they could come up with the optimal sequence for not only production of the precast parts, but also the sequence of installation. And as you can see, the platform is great for allowing, say, a designer that's working on the electrical system overhead in the overhead catenary to collaborate with, say, a construction sequencer who has to figure out what's the best sequence for putting not only the track and the subgrade in, but also the electrical lines and the switch gear and the other things associated with it. So you can see the ability for the platform to provide a diverse set of stakeholders with lots of different ways to solve problems, not only through formal processes like construction change orders and things like that, but also through just the everyday interaction of professionals on a project like this that have to solve countless problems, both in engineering, design, and execution, just to get the job done. And that's the whole point of our platform, is people use it every day to collaborate with each other to get those problems solved before those problems become the type of things that delay a project and cause the costs to go out of control because somebody didn't catch them earlier and it resulted in rework. And as you can see, the platform is capable of handling things at this level of scale, all the way down to the nuts and bolts level of detail, so that's not really an issue for us. So with that, I want to get to the point where I'm wrapping up the presentation. And as you can see, I talked a bit about execution and simulation of construction. This has been something that we've been stressing for a few years now. And we always like to point out the work of our partner CADMAKERS in this area. They've used that same DELMIA process planning suite that's part of our solutions to do this sort of work on building projects, where they've been able to show dramatic labor savings on pipe stacks and structural optimization for installation of superstructure, primary structure. And not only does it produce a direct labor savings, but when you have the ability to shave lots of labor out of a project, you get the opportunity to actually get to early completion. And so in the case like this Brock Commons project that we show as an example, not only did they save the labor for the direct labor costs, but because that resulted in early completion, you get to save a lot of the overhead costs that normally get associated with having a construction site, whether it's general conditions or insurance or equipment rental or finance costs. Getting to early completion is always a big benefit to the owner and to anybody on the project that is paid on performance. So we love to point this out. It's always a good idea to delight your owner by getting done ahead of schedule. And especially if this is a revenue producing facility and you get to actual revenue earlier, you'll have a really happy client on your hands. So with that, I just want to wrap up and thank you for listening to my presentation about the Dassault Systems platform and how it applies to construction in cities. And I'm available to answer your questions virtually if you have them. Just use whatever process the event is using to handle the questions, and we will get you answers. Thanks so much, and have a good conference.